Ready,
All right,
1, 2, 3.
Okay, welcome to the PreWrap. I'm back from a little hiatus. Couldn't stay away from my girls, so I guess I'm back.
Everything's right in the universe.
Yeah, I guess I'll come back.
The
Back
trio.
for episode 6.
Yeah, a lot has happened. I feel like since you guys last talked, obviously since I last talked. We got a lot to catch up in. Let's dive right in.
Okay, so we're starting with UCLA this week.
Yeah.
Okay, so needless to say, they had a huge win against Michigan. We talked a lot about Michigan on the pod.
Yeah, we have.
And they've been winning. I feel like we
Yes.
haven't
Yeah.
really
We-
talked
We
about
haven't
them.
talked a lot about
They kind of have like the UConn effect where it's
Yeah.
like, what even is there to say? Like, yeah, they're amazing. They look
Yeah,
really good.
Totally.
So, yeah, they have this huge win against Michigan, arguably their biggest competition in the Big Ten this year. So just to recap that game a little bit, once again, in perfect form, classic fashion, Michigan came roaring back in the fourth quarter. I was texting you guys play-by-plays. I was like, you guys aren't even going to believe what's happening. Silas Sorts 3. So many seconds left.
Like I've never
Live
experienced basketball like this, but this is
Yeah, you're welcome. So, yeah, they came roaring back in the fourth. We're not able to cinch a win regardless.
Again, I feel like they've done this. This has happened multiple times.
Yeah,
They have
it
to
was
come back in the
Vanderbilt, it
fourth
was
and they can't.
UConn.
Yeah.
It was
Sustain.
they can't sustain
No.
the success. Or they're starting too late.
Yeah,
Whatever.
they start too late.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, we haven't really talked about UCLA yet. Other to say that they're obviously at the top of the Big Ten, and everyone else is just fighting for seconds, like or who's going to be second.
Yeah.
And so just to do a little recap on their stats for the season, 3 weeks ago, they surpassed South Carolina for the number 2 spot in the AP poll and have looked very secure in that spot ever since. They lost to Texas earlier in the season and have won 17 in a row since that loss. And that includes 8 top 25 wins as of this week. Because, like some teams go in and out.
Yeah.
But as of this week, they have 8 top 25 wins this season. So basically, they're rolling.
Yeah.
They're rolling. There's kind of no stopping them. I feel like right now the conversation is like less about who's going to win the Big Ten. We know unless something crazy happens,
Yeah.
we know who's going to
Yeah,
win
UCLA's
the Big Ten.
probably gonna take it.
They're going to
Probably
be
a
the
lock.
regular season or they're
Yeah.
going to be the conference champions. We'll see about the tournament. I think they're going to win the tournament. I think what's interesting about this team is that it's kind of a now or never situation for them when it comes to winning the championship because they have 8 players losing eligibility from the roster this season.
It's crazy.
And that's all of their
I
starters.
was about to say, is that all their starters?
Lauren Betts, Kiki Rice, Gabriella
Jaquez.
Jaquez, Charlize Ledger-Walker, Gianna Neekins, they all lose eligibility after this season.
Wow,
So
last
it's-
chance.
Yeah, it's really
Oh,
do or
no.
die.
I mean, I feel like what they've done over the last 4 seasons alone is very impressive, and I feel like it's what you were saying of like it's kind of similar to UConn where we don't even have to talk about them, but I feel like it's different where it's like UCLA women's basketball has never had a championship.
Right.
So this is like a big moment for them to really do something, and I think, like you said, or maybe what you were going to say, but they got blown out by UConn last year in the Final Four. So I feel like, again, it's kind of like UConn is that measuring stick for them to see if they can, beat UConn, they'll probably win the whole thing.
Right. So, yeah, last year in the Final Four, they lost to UConn 85-51.
Yeah. That's
And
crazy.
2 of their starters were left completely scoreless.
Just a really tough loss for the season that they had
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
To go out like
And
that.
so that's kind of where I am with them right now is I'm like, okay, we can talk all day about how successful they've been in the season, but this is kind of the conversation we were having last time around this time. And then they lost the Big Ten championship to USC,
Yeah.
which obviously USC is
That
a
was
totally,
crazy.
it was crazy. And went into the tournament at a 2 seed.
Yeah.
Still made it to the Final Four, but then just looked like totally powerless against this UConn superpower.
And it's also not like UConn fell off this year. Like they're even better.
No, and that's my thing is like I think UCLA is definitely better this year than they were last year. But
so
I
is
also
UConn.
think UConn is better this year than it is last year. So my thing is like I remember so clearly in that game last year, it kind of seemed like the game plan was throw the ball to Lauren Betts.
Yeah.
And like obviously that didn't work.
Yeah.
So we have a new opportunity to maybe go in with a different strategy.
It's just hard when I feel like UConn is on track for like a historic season. Like I feel like they're on track to they're
blowing out everybody.
It's crazy. Like I don't think they've had a season like this since like I mean every season is strong for them, but like a season like this since like Stewie era
I know.
of like the 4 you know.
Yeah.
So
they're like healthy if they stay healthy.
Yeah, it's going to be a little. And also they blew out Tennessee without
Blanca.
Without Blanca.
Yeah.
crazy.
Which is kind of ridiculous.
Right.
They have 2 like National Player of the Year
contenders.
Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I am going to give UCLA some of their props. So right now they have 4 players averaging over 13 points a game.
Right.
That's a big deal. And they have like more of a reliable outside presence than they did last season when they added Ledger Walker. So I think like they are in a good position to do things that maybe they couldn't do against UConn last year.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm like really struggling to like see
how they get over
how
that
they get
hump.
past.
Yeah. And my doubt kind of stems from like UCLA has played very good teams this year, obviously.
Yeah.
But they haven't played any of these like juggernauts that we talk about. Like the SEC teams they've played are Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Texas, and they lost to Texas.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, I still feel a little bit like they're untested this season. Like,
but do you think they'll be a 1 seed going into the
yes.
tournament? Yeah, I think so too.
I think if they're not a 1 seed, somebody's
doing something
like
wrong.
somebody's like taking
the
I don't know.
committees.
What about you? Because UConn hasn't played an SEC super juggernaut either, right?
They
'Cause
also
played
have played Tennessee.
Just Tennessee.
They've just played Tennessee.
Yeah.
But people were saying that last year about them. And then they played South Carolina, and it was just like
a blow.
not even a game.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Dawn was screaming at the sky. Like, that's just...
Which I feel like, speaking of South Carolina blowouts, maybe brings us to our next topic pretty smoothly.
Yeah. Well, can I ask you 1 or 2 questions about this?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you taking UCLA farther than the Final Four this year?
I mean, if they have to go through UConn at any point before then, they're not going to the Final Four, you know? But I could easily see them in a championship game.
I think so, too. I agree with that. I don't think they're going to beat UConn. I don't think anyone's going to beat UConn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think UConn's going to repeat. So, yeah, if their path takes them through
UConn
the
before the Final
Huskies,
Four?
then they're not going to be there. But otherwise...
Would you take them over South Carolina?
I think... What do you think?
I don't know. I'm thinking about Texas. I feel like if they were to meet Texas again, they would win.
I think
because they lost earlier, but
beat South Carolina.
I think they could beat South Carolina.
I feel like South Carolina shows some inconsistencies in a way that UConn just doesn't.
No.
Interesting. Okay, so you would take them over like a SEC juggernaut, but maybe not a UConn.
No, I don't think I would take them over UConn.
I don't know. I feel like at this point, even the term of an SEC juggernaut versus like UConn is like 2 completely different things. Like a little bit. 2
different styles of play.
It's like
styles of play are 2 different.
I feel like it's almost just like civilian at this point versus like Superman. Like it's just like crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. So yeah, moving on. Speaking of SEC juggernauts.
Speaking of South Carolina. Which again, like going back, like it's hard to be like Dawn Staley, like is not, like her team is not going to be, like I don't know, when I think about UCLA playing South Carolina, I'm kind of like, well, it's Dawn Staley's team, like they might be able to pull out a win. But anyway.
Well, do you think that like that loss in the championship game last year, like, I mean, this is like such a, I don't even know if I agree with this. I'm kind of just like throwing things at the wall. But like, do you think that affects like Dawn's like legacy? I feel like that's a strong term. Or like, do you think you've like rinsed the taste of that loss out of your mouth going into this season? Because I don't know if I have, to be honest.
I think I have. I definitely don't think she has.
No, there's no way she has. But yeah, that's a good point. Like personally, it is like, I don't know, to get to the highest stage and then be blown out, like there was no there's no preparation for that is kind of crazy. But
Yeah.
she's a goat, so I don't know.
I know.
I can kind of look past it, but like
Yeah.
it is. I mean, if it happened again,
Right.
which I honestly feel like they would lose to UConn again,
Right.
and probably still by like a significant margin.
Totally.
Then I don't know. Then it probably is a stain on her legacy.
Right.
But that's hypothetical.
Yeah.
But okay, speaking of Dawn, recently, okay, this was like this past week, Tennessee was blown out by South Carolina. It was like 50 to 93, which is crazy because what was Tennessee ranked at? I think they dropped to 22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
They were like 18 or
Yeah,
19,
I mean,
I think.
Yeah, and they've lost 3 of their 4 last games by 15 or more points.
Not a
Yeah,
good
this is like right after they got blown out by UConn too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, which they had like at halftime they were like tied, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
It was like
okay.
what 45, 45.
Yeah, like 40, yeah, 42,
something like that,
42.
like 40.
And I was like, oh my god! And then it's like something I don't know. I
It
don't know what they
takes-
said got said at halftime, but
Yeah.
they
To keep up with South Carolina, like you have to be there the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or UConn.
right. Yeah,
Or
either.
You guys, I don't know what you do.
Okay, so that what was interesting about the game, obviously the blowout, but what was more interesting to me was kind of what happened after in the post game like presser. So Kim Caldwell was just obviously answering questions, and she said something along the lines of like, we had a lot of quit in us tonight, and it's something that's been consistent with our team is when we're not comfortable and things don't go our way, I have a team that'll just quit on you, and you can't do that in big games, can't do that in the SEC, you can't do that at a program like this. And then she also said that they don't have the leadership they need player wise, and she said they need someone who's respected and does the right things the right way to step up and lead the team. And it's like obviously her saying that implies that they have like she's saying they have no leadership. And so what's I guess interesting is that she went out and publicly said this and like said it about her players and kind of talking about what's happening in their locker room and what they're lacking.
Yeah.
She said she's had individual meetings with the players. And then she also said, this was interesting, we have a few young ones who I think could step up and lead because they do things the right way. I'm like, it's kind of like, I don't know if you're like kind of creating division.
Like pitting.
Right, you're
certain-
kind of pitting them against each
Yeah.
other. And anyway, Dawn kind of responded, or she was asked about it, and she said, for a young coach like Kim, coaching for the traditional powerhouse of Tennessee, for me, I probably wouldn't say it publicly. And then she went on to talk about, learning how to encourage your team to produce the results you want. And I feel like, I want to know where you guys stand on this, but I feel like I kind of side with Dawn here. And obviously Kim Caldwell, this is her second year being head coach, right?
At Tennessee. Yeah.
At Tennessee. So, and yeah, like Dawn said, like she's at like this historic place for women's basketball. But I feel like I'm kind of with Dawn and like the her leadership style of like kind of keep it in house and like of course you're going to be frustrated with your team when you think they're kind of giving up in these situations, like clearly they've been blown out. And a lot of it's happened in the second half too. So like I agree with what she's saying, but I feel like saying it publicly and putting your players on blast is just not good for the culture.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's what Dawn said in this quote here, where it's you got to get your team to buy in, and sometimes it's tricking them because it's a game. You have to remember that these are 18,
Yeah, they're
19
kids.
Yeah.
years. They're kids. They're absolutely kids. So, like, that's, I feel like, an important factor in these big, like, season-defining losses. Like, it sticks with, like, these kids, these young girls, and how they respond to it is really important, and the coach is such a factor in how they respond to it. So I agree. I think Dawn's a vet, and she's such a pro, so she knows what she's doing in terms of passing along that advice. But I think if I were one of the players, I would feel like a little less bought in if my coach was kind of like airing our dirty laundry like that instead of keeping it in-house and working through it like privately as a team.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of surprised, or I was kind of surprised by this, just because I remember last season Kim Caldwell came in, and a lot of the Tennessee players who were previously at the school decided to stay on because they liked her so much. And I mean, even when they got knocked out of the tournament, they had a lot of positive things to say about her, especially in the press, about like the way she coaches, like her culture, all that kind of stuff. It makes me wonder how that changed from year to year. I know a lot of the girls
more pressure too, just on Kim, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of the girls who were saying that were like lost eligibility after that year.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was like, I remember in the tournament, they were like saying that they wish they had more time with her.
Yeah.
Like that was their big regret, is that like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And so part of me wonders how much of this is like her struggling to manage personalities maybe, or if there's just dynamics among players that maybe she doesn't know how to handle. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. Or if it's just that she's like effing frustrated,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It's like she doesn't, like, these have been like 3 pretty embarrassing losses.
Well, she said that also. She was like, we should be embarrassed. She was like, it's embarrassing. Like,
Yeah.
she said that,
Which is
also.
fine. I think
Yeah.
that's like okay to
true.
That's
that.
totally
That's
okay
true.
to say.
Yeah.
I think so it's like, it's one thing to like acknowledge the stress. It's one thing to acknowledge that like we're not like the synchronicity.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Synchronicity.
Synchronicity. Yeah.
We get what you mean. We get what
You know
you
what I
edit
mean.
it out.
Yeah, we'll edit that out. Like, it's one thing to like acknowledge that you're not jiving as a group
Yeah.
or something. It's like another thing to be like,
We have no leadership from the
to
players.
blame.
Right.
Yeah,
This is, I think it's
When
like,
you yourself like
Are the leader. Like,
Yeah,
you
right.
should be. It comes from the top.
Yeah. I think there's a fine line between like the sense of urgency to inspire your players and to light a fire under their butts and be like, we got to get it going. And I think there's ways to do that in the press conference without like creating division among the team. And I think it's what you were saying, like maybe the stress and frustration. Like she is a second-year coach at a major like SEC powerhouse.
Like
That's a
legacy
lot of
school.
pressure.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna make mistakes, and I think it's maybe more so just like the inexperience showing a little bit, especially when it comes to media. Like I also kind of feel like you're like, yeah, I'm like here to coach basketball. I want to like get out on the court or get out and practice with my players and fix this, and then you have to sit down and talk about it. And like odds are you're gonna say the wrong thing, especially early on in your career. So
I guess
go with Dawn.
also like we'll see how it works out for them and like how they respond, because they haven't played since like, but they have a rough schedule coming up. They play like Missouri, and then they play Texas, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, LSU, Vanderbilt. Like it just gets worse. It literally just gets worse.
That's like
So-
some fatigue that could be starting to show, especially
Yeah.
going into
oh
March.
my
Like this
Right.
God.
So it's
could
like
really be a backslide.
Oklahoma, Ole Miss,
Vanderbilt.
LSU, Vanderbilt, Texas?
Yeah, that's
Texas
crazy.
is on Sunday.
I would not like to do
Dude,
them right now.
if they lose to Texas, I mean, obviously, I'm kind of like they probably will
I
because
know, yeah.
Texas is rolling. But like, that's a really tough like loss to stack onto UConn and Tennessee. I mean, and South Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, they're good losses, but dang. And it's like, it's also like,
is that South Carolina?
No,
loss?
no,
Like,
no, no,
You know
no,
what I mean?
I'm saying if like you have to lose to
Yeah,
someone, those
right.
are the teams you want to lose to.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the thing that worries me in that situation is like they're playing all their hardest, arguably their hardest run of stretch of the season right before the tournament.
Yeah. And I guess they're not feeling inspired, or like we'll see how Kim Caldwell's words like inspire them, or if it just kind of divides them and
Yeah.
it fractures the team more.
Yeah.
If their performance is affected by it, or maybe they'll bounce back and I don't know, be super
I know.
inspired. But
maybe
maybe
in like 3 weeks we'll be sitting here being like, well, I guess Kim
she
Caldwell's
knows
a genius.
She's her leadership
Like,
style.
pull something out.
But
Yeah,
I don't know, man. Like that's
I don't feel inspired.
I don't.
right now.
I don't.
Inspired.
But who knows? I mean, I don't know.
We'll see.
That's tough.
Something to keep our eyes on.
All right, so now we're gonna move on to talking more about the pro space and specifically the CBA. But before we did that, we kind of just wanted to acknowledge the Rakia Jackson situation that is just like really unfortunate and scary. She will not be participating in the Unrivaled one-on-one tournament after a very public incident between her and her ex-boyfriend, James Pierce, who plays for the Atlanta Falcons. We wanted to just acknowledge that this was happening, but we also want to be able to devote enough time to be able to talk about this in a respectful way, and we want to like think about. We don't want to talk about it for the sake of talking about it. We don't think that's respectful. So we just wanted to acknowledge it's happening, and we're going to have like a more thoughtful conversation about it next week. But just generally wanted to say that we're all thinking about Rakia, and we hope that she's okay, because that's a very difficult, scary situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
Should we move into CBA, or should we
Let's go for it.
pop on Angel Reese really fast?
Oh,
We can do it real quick. Yeah?
Yeah, really fast.
Yeah.
all right.
Who wants
Do you
to
want me to
take
do
it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I can do it.
Take it
Okay,
away,
well,
Lucy.
then some breaking news from Unrivaled is that Angel Reese is back. For the last, I think there's like 3 games left of the regular season once the one-on-one tournament's over. But it was like the second trade in Unrivaled history. I mean,
Wow.
it's the second year of Unrivaled, but still second trade. And so the trade had Courtney Williams going from Vinyl to Breeze, and then Sanaya Rivers went from Hive to Vinyl, and then Azrae Stevens went from Rose to Hive.
Crazy.
So I guess Azrae got
Yeah.
maybe booted to make room for Angel, or maybe not. Maybe it's fine. It's just a little trade.
That's a stacked
But
squad.
yeah,
I know.
right? And so Rose, they won last year championship.
They might-
So they want They want to
They might win again. Chelsea Gray, Cog Copper, and Lexi Hull.
right.
With
So-
Angel Reese.
And Angel Reese now.
Dang.
So yeah, maybe they're bringing her back for a little repeat or another repeat. But yeah, it's interesting. Also, because she's just such a popular player, I feel like she brings so many she'll bring so many eyes to it. Because viewership numbers were reportedly a little bit down technically. But Unrivaled did set the women's pro basketball attendance record
Yeah, that's awesome.
in Philly a couple weeks ago, and it was
And they're going to
over
be getting
21,000.
a team in, I think, 2030.
2030.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
That'll be
So, and
great
also
for
with
them.
Angel, we haven't seen her play since early September because she was injured with her
Injured,
back,
yeah.
and then she
Yes.
was just,
Yep.
not playing. Like the end of her season
Didn't
last season
go-
was not
didn't go to
great.
plan.
So we
Yeah.
haven't seen her play in a while. So I'm excited.
I know.
to see her back
Good.
and have her back on the
I think
court.
it's also good for the players
Yeah.
amidst the CBA stuff to kind of have Angel show up to this space that is obviously not the W, but
Yeah.
this alternative professional women's basketball space and be like, hey, I'm here to
Yeah.
play. I think it's a subtle show of support and
Yeah.
camaraderie, which is great too.
Yeah, it is.
Cool. Which kind of leads
Speaking
into
of
your
CBA.
Yeah,
point
speaking of
about-
CBA, so there's not many updates, but we were talking about how Brianna Stewart sat down with CBS Sports in an exclusive interview on Monday, talking about the W's new proposal that they sent to the Players Association. And they responded to that, and they said there wasn't much movement financially in the way that they wanted, but they were meeting some of the baseline requirements and standards. And the players, or at least Stewart, said that was a show of good faith, and that the league is listening, but they're not quite where they want it to be. So
That's a much more positive message than it's
also,
been
I
in the
guess
past.
also at least isn't it their first kind of meeting, in-person meeting?
So did you guys see that Nafisa Collier and Kelsey Plum missed their flight to go have this in-person meeting? So I think that they had to join on Zoom, but people were upset about
Yeah.
it because they were posting in the airport that they missed their flight and stuff, and everyone was
Yeah.
like, this feels unprofessional because we're in the midst of
Right,
these intense
lock in, ladies.
conversations.
I
Yeah.
did not see that.
Yeah, so we can touch more on that next week as well, in terms of how they're going to get this deal done. But I think it's interesting. There is progress, and I think you guys talked about the Rebecca Lobo and Sue Bird conversation of it, which I think is interesting of just that at the end of the day, they're going to have to show up on that podium together, and they're going to be in a revenue sharing deal. So they have to be communicating and negotiating on good terms. So I think
Yeah.
that this interview kind of allows that. She also mentioned about the concessions on player housing, which was big,
Yeah.
and that they're entitled to certain players are entitled to 1-bedroom apartments, and then developmental players get studio apartments. And the minimum salaries are raised to about, I think it's $230,000, which is a huge jump
That's
from
a
obviously
huge
what it
jump.
was before. But they want more. They do want the salary cap to. It was raised to $5.65 million, but they want it raised to about, I want to
like
say 10.
10.
$10.5 million.
Yeah.
So that would put the max salary for players to $2.5 million, which is, I mean,
Much more.
I would say it's more, but obviously I would say they deserve even more than that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting. Natasha Cloud was on a podcast recently talking about how if CBA negotiations don't move, she was talking about how Unrivaled can act as kind of like a catch for players.
Yeah. Which is kind of what we were saying a few episodes ago.
But she was saying, basically, this is the quote. I feel like I can't say that there is or there isn't a plan because I'm not 100% sure. But I know Unrivaled is prepared in so many different instances, and the biggest one being that we own the space that we play in. And then she also said, so if we wanted to stay here as the players of Unrivaled with equity in this league and with space, financial money, all that stuff, we could stay here, train, play, put on another season if need be. And I feel like it's worth pointing out that Unrivaled is only 48 players. So I feel like kind of what we touched on this maybe like a couple weeks ago, but I feel like right now there's like this separation between like these top tier players who definitely deserve to be like earning the absolute most that they could possibly be. And then like your middle tier players who also 100% deserve to be earning as much as they possibly can. And like, but just don't have maybe like the security net that some of these top tier players have.
So when you think about it, too, having a minimum salary of $230,000, like that changes your life.
Yeah.
You know, that's
100%.
unbelievable. And making the average $530,000, like that's.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's like.
And it also means if there's a lockout or a strike,
Right.
and there are some players like little less than half of the league that have the security net with Unrivaled, and then there are other players who don't.
Right.
It puts people in very, very different standings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I think it was literally just today. We're recording this Thursday, right? So,
Expose ourselves.
Yeah,
Very sure.
we're recording this so today. ESPN dropped something, and from Athletes Unlimited, they polled players and kept it anonymous about like their thoughts kind of on where they stand. And one of the questions was, do you feel represented in these negotiations as someone who's not among the top tier of WNBA earners? And most of them are like, yeah, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty represented by like the executive
Good.
people. And then there's one that was kind of like yes and no. Like one of the quotes was like, I know you guys are top earners, but at the end of the day, you also need us. There could be no league.
Right.
So,
and it is hard when you have like your VPs and you're the head of the players associations are these stars.
yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously like they're fighting for everyone's best interest, but they have an experience and a bias that is just not necessarily similar to the majority of the league, which isn't their fault, but you know, they're going to be fighting for as much as they want.
Yeah, and it's inherent. I mean,
of course.
everyone, all anybody can do is like project their own experience
Totally.
out.
Yeah.
I'm also seeing something that says in the CBS interview with Stewie that the $230,000 minimum and average $530,000. This includes, so that's the base salary plus the revenue sharing component. That's the team and the league revenue, which the players obviously have been asking for. And the deal would result in the players getting 70% of the net revenue. And so the remaining thing would go to like league operating expenses and things like that. But I think that the players countered supposedly with 30% of the gross revenue.
Yeah.
So that's what would move the salary cap and things to about $10.5 million and the max salary to $2.5 million.
Yeah, because I remember last time we talked about this, the thing that we were saying, was like, what we don't know yet is how much more players would get in a gross sharing model versus a net sharing model. And I guess this is telling us exactly. I mean, that's a
That's
I was-
double. That's
yeah.
essentially
We
double.
were basically like, it's got to be a ton more, but
Right.
we just don't know how much.
Yeah.
Of
It
course.
clearly is.
Yeah.
Of
Now we know.
course.
Now I know.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to the interesting combination of like you have your star players and what they're pushing for, and then you have to think of the rest of the league of your bench and role players.
Right.
And
Who
then you have
also
to
like
think-
a lost paycheck might affect differently.
Absolutely.
than
And
the
then
top
you
earner.
also have to think about kind of like does what Sue Bird and Rebecca Lobo, what they were saying, does that like factor in at all?
Yeah.
But it's very much just like their sentiment a little bit feels like, and obviously they're the GOATs and so iconic, but it is a little bit like, well, I had it like this, so like you should just be grateful that you're getting
And they're
this great
owners.
deal.
I mean,
They're
Yes.
they're on the other.
ESPN,
They are on the other side of the
ESPN
bargaining
and
table.
Sue is an
Yeah,
owner,
they are.
our owner in the storm. So
And I think like we've seen players like Sophie Cunningham has her own podcast. God, everyone has a podcast now. But she was saying on her own podcast, like she named Seattle Storm as being one of the most player first,
yes,
if not the most player first
Definitely.
organization
Yeah.
in the league. So
for
obviously,
so long too.
yeah. And so obviously people don't. It's not that the players are like looking at Sue Bird and being like, oh, she's just no. It's not that at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is a dynamic there that's.
Totally. It's
That's-
also
that
maybe a
comes into
passing
play.
of the torch. Like you
Yeah.
appreciate and respect what these players and icons have done, and then you're like, okay, but now I'm gonna take this and everything you've done and push for more, just
Yeah.
like you did with the
Yeah.
players that came before you. You
Right.
know, so it's almost like a sign of respect.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess we'll see how. I
Hopefully-
feel like every week we're like,
We'll just
the
have to
time's
see.
ticking.
Yeah.
Let's
It's coming
see.
up soon.
Is it
April when
I mean,
like things start going? I'm pretty sure like April.
yeah, because that's
15th
when
is
that's when the college.
That's when the
College
college
draft
draft
is-
is, but they're supposed to
Yeah.
do the expansion
Preseason
draft and
games-
free agency before then.
Training camps are
And then training
scheduled to
camp.
begin on April 19th, with preseason games to begin on April 25th.
That's like a month away.
Opening night May 8th. Yeah, that's like 2 months. We got about 2.5.
Wait,
It's
What's today?
Yeah, it's February.
February.
Oh my god.
Still.
But like next month we'll be
Oh
like
my
in
God.
March. Like a month from today we'll be like getting into March Madness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tournament,
If
and then it's
they're-
the draft.
If even like by
Hello?
March 1st, if they haven't figured this out, that's like 6 weeks until training camp.
And they need to do the expansion draft. They need to do free agency. They need to do
They
so many
They
things.
haven't done free agency or the expansion draft.
because they
yet.
have to do the expansion first.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, and
definitely-
then you
for
have to do free
Because
agency.
And then they have-
you
yeah.
pull from the pool of the players that are
Oh
still
my
in
God.
the
And
league.
how do you know who to draft from college if you don't have a roster?
And how do you even know who to like who is safe and who isn't safe on
Yeah.
your team if you're not making free
No
agency
one's tagged.
moves?
Like no one's. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's definitely going to be one of those situations where we're like talking and we're like, oh, we'll see what happens with like CBA stuff. And then once it's finalized, like we're going to have so much to talk
happening.
about.
Yeah,
it's going to be
all happen at
crazy.
once.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
So stay
All
tuned.
right, well, stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned. Oh my god.
We got a quick
I'm
little
like-
episode in for you guys.
I know. I'm like worn out just thinking about
I
it.
know. I'm exhausted. We got to go take a nap. Actually. We're done for the day. All right.
All right.
All right,
Bye,
see you
guys.
next week.
Sounds good. Peace.